Morning, everybody. I'm sorry for the confusion this morning. I was having problems with my computer, so I'm hopeful that this will be a little bit better. I'm recording this in Camtasia. So today we're working on lesson 3 for our Illustrator class. In previous lessons, in lesson 1, basically gave you an overview of Adobe Illustrator. In lesson 2, we covered how to select, deselect, combine, align objects and that sort of thing. In this particular lesson, what we're doing is we're learning how to create simple illustrations using the shape tool, or the shape tools. So this is the finished version that we have. It's a little still life, stylized, created using just basic shapes. Okay? Well, that's what we're going to do in this particular lesson. And they provided the startup file for us. And you can see grayed out if I select it, where they've provided the text. They've also provided an orange slice that we will use and embed it and incorporate it in another object. And so what we're going to do to start with is we'll make the our bowl, and then we'll work on a pear, and then using some of the shapes from the pear, we're going to make the apple, and then we'll make a leaf, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make the lemon, and then we'll go ahead and we'll take this little wedge, this slice, and put it inside a circle with a draw inside feature. So with that, let me go ahead and start by making the base. So we're going to start with a basic rectangle like so, and I'm going to use properties panel extensively to do this. So the width, they want this to be about 1 inch. So I'm going to click and drag and put in 1 and hit the tab key, so it's 1 inch. They want the height of this to be 1/10 of an inch, so I'll do that. I'll go ahead and put in 0.1. So that's small. Now I don't see, I need to curve the edges of that. So I need to zoom in order to see the little features here, these little dots that allow us to create curved corners. I want to make sure that the curved corners are linked so that when I make it small, when I round it for one corner, they in fact are all rounded. So there we go. So that was pretty simple. That was pretty straightforward. Okay, but now you'll notice I don't have a fill, so I'm going to go ahead, and I don't have a stroke, so I'm going to go back to the default black and white for the time being. So let's zoom out, and I'm going to move this down like so. And the next step will be to make the bowl itself. We're going to use a rectangle to do that. They want it to be approximately 3 inches wide and about 3/4 of an inch deep. So I'm going to click and drag and just arbitrarily make a shape that's about that size, but not quite. So now again, I can go ahead up here and I can type in 3. So that's exactly 3 inches. And then I can go ahead and in the height, I can make that 3/4 of an inch. So that will be 0.75 inches. Now, normally when I'm working, I don't pay much attention to sizes. I just, if it looks right, it's right. And I think that's bottom line in illustration and art in general. That's what you do. I want to make sure that under view that I have, I want it to be, let's see, I want to show, no, I have art, not artboards, I have, where is it? I want to show, I'll just say snap to pixel. And then also I want to say under view. Smart guides, there we go. I want to make sure that those are checked. I don't know why I didn't see that before. So now I can go ahead and I can round the bottom. Notice that they're linked. I don't want that. So let's undo. So I'm going to come back up here and I'm going to unlink it so that now what I can do is I can round the bottom like so. Well, come on. I'll just go ahead and put it in the bottom here. And I'll put it 3/4, 0.75. And there we go. So it's not behaving unless I put it in individually. So 0.75. And we have there we go, and I'll move that into position. So that's aligned. Now I need to fill it with a color. And I'm going to go ahead and fill it. And I should have one here. That should be, I think it's this one. Nope, that's not it. Let's go back over here. There we go. There's our brown bowl. So we have, 3/4 of an inch high, 3 inches wide, and now we're ready to go to the next step, and we're going to start to make the pear shape. So to use the pear shape, we're going to start with using the ellipse tool, and I'm going to go ahead and tear this off so we can see all of these. So to use the ellipse, and we're going to just move these off to the side here. What I want to do is I want to create a little egg shape here. It's about 1/2 inch wide and about 3/4 of an inch deep. Okay. And now I like smart guides because it's going to allow me to align the next shape that I create underneath it. So you can see that the little pink vertical line appears. And now what I can do is I can hold down the Option key and the Shift key and click and drag. And when that's about 1 inch, I can move it into position. And it's perfectly aligned. So now if I click and I drag and I hold down the Shift key, it will align into position like so. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to go back to this one, and one of the things that I want to do is I want to remove the stroke. So I'll select no stroke. I'll select both of these. Oops, I don't want to select that one. I want to select this one and this one. And again, I'm going to select no stroke. And with both of them selected, I'll select the green. Whoops. No stroke. I make sure I select the fill. There we go. I want that green. There we go. So now we have basically our pear shape. Okay. And if this needs to be a little bit wider, we can always do that. If I hold down Option key, I'll do that until we get the proportions the way we like them. Okay. So there we have our pear shape, just using the ellipse tool. And now what I want to do is I want to make the apple. And what I want to do from that is I'm going to go ahead and use the ellipse tool again, but we're going to start by making circles. So I'm going to move over here and I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click and drag. So it's a little over halfway. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the Move tool to make a duplicate of it. So I click and drag, hold down, as I'm dragging, hold down the Option key and the Shift key, and that makes a duplicate of it. Okay, so now we have two. And now what I want to do is I want to take this shape and I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Option key and click and drag, hold down the Shift key so that it is duplicated. Okay. And now what I want to do is I'm going to use this little widget to actually make this just halfway. If I click at the Properties panel, I can see that it's not quite 180 degrees, but if I click in here and type in 180 degrees, it will be exactly a half circle. Okay. So now what I can do is, what I would prefer to do is I would take these two shapes, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move it over a little bit. There we go. So that aligns. Hold down the Shift key and then drag. And then again, when it aligns with the bottom, you can see that it aligns with that bottom half of that circle. And now I can move that up. Hold down the Shift key. And when they fit together really nice, then I'm done. So the next step will be to take these three shapes and apply the appropriate fill to them. So I'll select all three. I'm just going to click and drag over all three like so, and select fill. And I'm going to select kind of an apple that's too pink. There we go, that should do it. Nice red apple color. Now in the lesson they also provide this isn't working for me. It's not quite aligned, so it's really bothering me. There we go. Okay, specific colors for some of these. And again, to do that, you know, select the shape that you want to fill, click the fill color, switch from the swatches to the CMYK color callouts, and then type in the colors, the percentages that they require. Okay, I'm just ballparking it right now. So now I have my apple, and the next one that I hope will work, it didn't work for me earlier today, is that I want to create the leaf shape. To do the leaf shape, if I come in here and I click and I drag, by default this is usually a pentagon shape. To add sides to it, you hit the down arrow or the up arrow. To remove sides, you hit the down arrow. So if you wanted a triangle, you could do that. You don't need a rectangle, but there's 5, there's 6. So we'll go ahead and hold down the Shift key. I don't want these to be linked. So something that this is doing that I don't quite understand is that it's linking all 6 sides. And I don't want that to happen. I want to unlink it. So that when I stretch this, there we go. If I hold down the Command key, which is something that I just learned, we can go ahead and we can, instead of rounding the corners uniformly, we can round them separately. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this so that the point here is at the top, like so. I'm going to elongate it a little bit. Actually, I should have done that before. Let's go ahead and shrink that so it's a little bit narrower. Round it like so. Okay, hold down the Command key. And now what I want to do is I want to round each, oh, come on. Let's do that. Let's show this. And I want to round each of these separately. And it won't do it. It's doing them all the same. It should be a feature over here that when I click in the Properties panel, it should allow me to to change each of these separately. And it's not allowing me to do that. So there's something that I'm forgetting. So I'm going to make the leaf a little bit differently. And just to show you, this is a little bit more complex way of doing it. But it will work just the same. And let's go ahead and start with a circle. I'm going to move over the center here. I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to make an ellipse, like so. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and go back here. And let's look and see what we have here for corners. And it's not going to let me do it, so that's not going to work for me. So, you know, I can do it a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the direct selection tool, and I'm going to select this endpoint, and I'm going to make it a corner point. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and select underneath the pen tool, switch to the anchor point, or convert anchor point tool, and I'm going to click here. And that allows me to point it. And now I'm going to do that there, and now I have my leaf shape. It's just another way of doing that. I think that's better than the way that they did it. It's a little bit less, takes less time to do. I can get the approximate size that I need. They want it to be, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And I want this to be approximately, ½ inch, and maybe a little bit less, maybe 0.35. I think that's what they wanted. 3-5 inches. And I'm gonna undo that and make this maybe 7.5, 3/4 of an inch tall. And so here's our leaf shape. And again, I need to go back over to the fill, and I need to fill it. So we're gradually making all of our shapes for illustration that we'll be able to simply move into position and duplicate. One of the things that I like to do is I like making copies of everything. So I'm going to zoom out here in case I goof. Then what I'll do is if I use the artboard tool, I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new artboard next to that. Okay, move off the artboard tool, and then I'm going to select each of these shapes here. Groups. And I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to hold down the Option key to make a copy. Do the same for the apple. And hold down the Option key and move it over and make a copy. So if I ever need to go back to the original shapes, I have them. So I'll take this one, again, hold down the Option key, and I have a copy. Because what I want to do next is not done in the book, but I prefer it, is that I like merging these shapes together. Because should I decide to do something different with them, like outline them, it will only outline the individual shapes as opposed to the whole, the combined shape. So I'm going to go ahead and select both, and I'm going to select the shape builder tool. I'll go ahead and I'll just click across that. So that's one shape now. Likewise, when I select off of that and I select the one for the apple, I need to select all three of these shapes. So I'll just click and drag across that. And now what I'll do with the shape builder tool is I'm going to go ahead and again click across all of these, just drag and drag, and now it's one combined shape. So I'm set to go, and you can go back and edit those. But again, I like giving myself some leeway here. So by duplicating them here, I can always go back and edit them if I wish. What we're going to do next is we're going to create a little flower that's going to go inside that will be an added shape. So this is going to be, if I go back over here It's these little shapes right here. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to use the star tool. I'm going to click and drag like so, and I want to go down to 4. Now, if I leave it as is, I can do that. If I hold down the Command key, notice that it changes the outer radius of that. And that would be true for the star tool as well. If I go up like so, and I hold down the Command key, notice how the configuration of a star changes considerably. So I'm going to go down, so I go to 4, and I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Command key, and I want that to be just a nice little configuration like so. Now I'm going to duplicate that and reduce the size of it. Okay, so another way of duplicating, and if I want it to be absolutely centered on top of this, is I can hit Command C for copy, and I can go to Edit, and I can say Paste in Front. So now I have a duplicate. And now when I go here, let's rotate that. Notice that I have a duplicate, and if I hold down the Shift key, it duplicates, it changes the size. It rotates 45 degrees. So now if I hold down the Shift and the Option key, I can zoom out a little bit. And there we go. So now I need to change the colors of these. So I'm going to go back here, and I think I'm going to use the eyedropper to go ahead and pick that color up. And I'm going to hold down the Option key, and I'm going to fill that color. Now this one needs to be yellow, so I'll just go back in, select this shape, zoom in a little bit so I can see it a little bit better. Make it a little bit smaller, like so. And now we can go into the fill color, and I'll just fill it with a nice bright yellow. I'll make one slightly like so. So again, probably one of the things that I should do, since this flower shape is one, I don't want to use the shape builder tool, but maybe what I would prefer to do is to select both of them and hit Command G for group. So now when I select one, they both select. And remember how I can, if I wanted to edit them individually, how I can do that. There's a couple of different ways of doing that. Either double click or use to get inside that group, or I can also go ahead and use the group selection tool. So another way of making shapes now. So we've made our little flower shape. Next thing that we need to do is we need to put a little line underneath that. So we're going to use the line tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and click and drag like so. Hold down the Shift key. This is going to be 2. We'll make it under stroke here. I want it to be 2 points. Okay. And I need to, another thing that I want to do is I'm going to fill the base with a dark brown color. So I'll select that. Let me go ahead and zoom in on that. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. 2 things we're going to do on here. One is I need to change the fill. And I'm going to make it a little bit darker brown than what we have up here. The second thing is that when I select the stroke, if we look at the stroke properties, there's a couple of things that you can do with them. The one that I'm concerned about is aligning the stroke. By default, half of the stroke is on one side of the path, and half of the stroke is on, that's the outside of the path, and half of the stroke is on the inside of the path. What I want to do is I want to make it on the inside. So I click that, and that puts it on the inside of the stroke. So now it fits pretty nicely in here. If I need to take that and move it down just a little bit, I can, or move it up. Or go ahead and hold down the Shift key and move it into position. There we go. So Now, if you recall from one of my previous lectures, I said that we could always take a vector graphic and we could rasterize it. That's what I did to show you the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator. But we can also take a raster image and we can vectorize it. We can convert it to a shape. So that's what we're going to do now to create the little lemon shape. So what we want to do is we want to import the image that they provided for us of a lemon. So to import it, what I wanted to do is I want to place, okay? That's what they use for importing a foreign file. And I go inside here, and here's that lemon JPEG. JPEGs, by default, are raster graphics. So here's this huge, huge, huge lemon that we have here. So let me zoom out of this. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to vectorize this thing. So when you select it, you can see up here, we can say image trace. Well, what I would like to do is I want to see the entire window for that. I'm going to go down here and I want to be able to trace it. So to do that, I need to find image trace. And there's a lot of options that I have available to me. So if I use the preset, which I don't want to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to break it down into 6 colors. And you can see how it looks posterized. What they want us to do, though, is we're going to change that. What I want to do is, I'm going to switch to silhouettes. Okay, so let's switch from 6 colors to, to silhouettes. Okay, I want to make sure that I get rid of the background. So let's look at the artboard here. We have all these other options here. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change some of the settings here so that we get rid of the background and that sort of thing. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and take the threshold and take it to 206. So and that will change the configuration of this considerably. Notice it got rid of that shadow. And then what I want to do is I want to take the paths and I want to take them and change those to 20%. And this will refine the shape even further. And then I want to take the corners and I'm going to leave those at 50%. And noise, I'm going to crank that up to 100%. Okay. I'm going to make sure that I have ignore white turned on. And I have the little shape in the upper left-hand corner that I'm going to need to get rid of, which is not a problem. Okay. So now that I'm ready, I can go ahead and I can, now that I'm ready to go, I can go ahead and I'm set to go. So I'm going to go ahead and expand. And then what I want to do is right now, this is treated as a group. So I'm going to come back up here and go to Object, and I'm going to select Ungroup. And now I can take this shape, let's deselect that, take this shape and get rid of it. There we go. Now I have my lemon shape. So this is a nice way to work. It really can cut your drawing time down considerably, and it does some really interesting things when you work with more complex illustrations. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to switch from the fill to a nice yellow. Let's go ahead and select this yellow shape. Now we have our lemon. Now I can go ahead and scale this down. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Shift and the Option key and make it a little bit smaller, like so. And now we have all the parts be able to put together our illustration, with the exception of the orange. Okay, so I'm going to do the orange next. So they've given us this shape here. We want to put this inside a half shape. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create, using the ellipse tool, I'm going to go ahead and create, let's move this over so I can see this a little bit better. I'll move this over here like so. I'll move this up. Give myself some real estate. Actually, I could just move this over like so. That's why I have that extra artboard. So what I'm going to do now is, on top of this, is I'm going to select and create a circle. Again, hold down the Option key, the Shift key, and click and drag. Whoop, I didn't want to do that. I don't want that. I need to deselect the shape. There we go. Let's try again. Move over the center. Hold down the Option key and the Shift. And I'm going to make a circle that's just a little bit bigger than that. And I want to fill this with orange, an orange shape, orange color. Well, here's my orange. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to 50% again. So this, go all the way to 180 degrees. And I'm going to check and make sure that when I look at that shape, and it's not quite 180 degrees. Okay, so there I have it. Now what I can do is I want to deselect, but I'm going to select this shape first, and I'm going to copy it. Now I'm going to select this shape, and I want to change the drawing mode to draw inside. And now what I can do is I can say edit, paste. Okay, and that pastes that inside there. But notice it centers it. So probably a more efficient way of doing that would have been to go edit, paste in place. And now notice it's exactly positioned where I wanted it. And now I can take this shape and I can go back to my normal drawing mode, select this one, come on. There we go. Come on. Move it over. And notice that the orange slice goes with it, and I haven't damaged this in any way. The original shape that they gave us, I can use it for, later if I wish, or wish to reconfigure it. And now the final steps for this are to put all these pieces together. Okay? So I have my illustration here. I have my bowl. And now we're ready to go ahead and to put some of these pieces together. But before I do, there's one final thing that I need to do. And I'm going to bring up layers to do that. In order to, with Illustrator, in order to have a fill for your illustration, you need to create a shape. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put a gray shape inside there. So what I want to do is I want to select the rectangle tool, and I want all of these sides to bleed. So to do that, I need to go to File, and I need to, let's see, I'm going to go to Document Setup, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add bleeds to this. So this would be 1/8 inch of a bleed. So I'm going to put 0.125 inches. And you can see surrounding this is a little red box. So anytime you want, when you have a print that's going to be trimmed to this size, which is 6 inches wide by 4¼ inches deep, to make sure that the background prints all the way to the end. You need to make sure that you use the bleed. So I'm going to select the rectangle tool, and I'm going to click and drag all the way across here so that actually overlaps the entire size by 1/8 of an inch. I can fill it with, I want it to be a nice light gray. Okay. And now this is clearly sitting on front of everything, so what I want to do is I'm going to go to Object. Come on. I want to go to Object, Arrange. Now I'm going to say Send to Back. Now it's behind everything. So now what I can do is I can move some of my shapes around, make duplicates of them. So I'm going to take these and move them over. I'll take this shape and move it over. And since I join these together, I can just don't have to worry about accidentally selecting separate shapes. If I feel that this should be a group, whoops, I didn't want to do that. See, that's one of the downsides of having things behind everything. So what you probably want to do is I probably want to put that, I would have put that on a separate layer, or I could just simply, knowing that it's behind it and I don't want to disturb it, is to lock it. So now if I select like so, I don't accidentally select that background, and I can move it down like so. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and once that's moved, actually, you know what? I'm going to treat this as a group. I can always ungroup it. Command G. There we go. And now we can begin to put these in their place. So I'll put this one here, and that's behind. Okay, we can move this in here like so, and that's in front. So I can either move that by using the layers panel. You can see that the lemon is way up here. I want to make sure that it is behind. I'm going to put the bowl way back down here. Okay. Actually, the bowl needs to be near the, well, as I need to, I'll move things in front or behind. Let me undo that. Okay, so the pear is where it's supposed to be. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this one, and I need this to be behind the pear. So let's find the pear over in my layers. And it's there. So let's find that. Let's move it again. And let's move it one more time. Now it's behind that. So there we go. Now I can select my apple, and I can move this over here like so. And I need to bring that forward, so I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, and I'm going to say Bring to Front, and that puts it in front. We can also take the rest of our elements, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, if I want to rotate that a little bit, I can. Make that a little bit more interesting, put it in a position. Let's make a copy of it and send it backwards. So I'll go ahead and click it, drag it, hold down the Option key, move that over like so, and say, now I can say send to back, but if it does, it's going to go all the way back. So I want it to be in front of the gray. So that's down there. If I want to rotate it again, I can do that. Okay, so slowly but surely we can go ahead and we can take each of these shapes and we can put them into position. And we've constructed our little illustration. That's all there is to it. And I'm going to make duplicates of the leaves, make duplicates of the flowers. And we have really not much more to go. So I'll go ahead and I'll do a couple of these for you. Now, for example, if I want to rotate this, I can go ahead and use the rotate tool, and I want it to rotate right about the point here. Now I can click and drag and it rotates. Now what I could do is I could mirror this. That would be another option for me. Reflect. But what I want to do is I want it to mirror across that, and I want to make a copy of it. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and click. I don't want to rotate it. I want it to be mirror. So let's tear that off. Let's select the mirror tool. I'm going to hold down the Option key and click. And I'll make a copy of it. So there's a quick way of duplicating and mirroring at the same time. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take each of the leaves and you're going to duplicate them and rotate them as needed. Make copies of the flowers as needed and put them into position. If you need to, make this bottom base a little bit bigger, remember I can use the group selection tool. Since I grouped that, I can select this part right here. And if I hold down the Option key, I can make it a little bit bigger. I didn't want it. Let me zoom in. I didn't want to make a copy of it. I want to select it. There we go. And we can go ahead and I don't want to make a copy. It should be a group. And it's a part of the group. So now I can go ahead and transform it. I can either do that here. Let's go ahead and make this like 3 1/4 inches. 3.25. And move it over. And I'm going to hide the layers for a moment. And move it over. There we go. So I'm gradually tweaking it and making it the illustration that I want. Okay. Let's go ahead and move this over a little bit. This needs to go behind the bowl. So again, I'll go ahead and I'll select it, bring up layers, find out where it is, put it below the bowl. There you go. So you're arranging it. Before you know it, you have the finished version, which is what we see over here. Okay? So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and post this on my YouTube channel, and I hope that this will be helpful for you to be able to do lesson 3. Very simple lesson, but yeah, it's a logical next step in learning Adobe Illustrator. So that's what I have for you today, and I'm going to go ahead and end this. Didn't I record this?